Laugh with me. Welcome, basement dwellers, to the special Halloween edition of My Parents' Basement. As you can tell, we've spookified the joint a little bit. My name's Anthony Trombetta. We're back here in Titan Gaming for our Halloween episode. We have Chris Ford, as always, my co-host, and back for another round. They survived the last one. We have Dave Hamlin, producer of the show, Jenna Payton, back once again. And we are talking horror here, and we've even got our horror t-shirts on. I got my little, my kind of satanic sweater kind of thing, but underneath, it's very scary. It's Pong! But this is the video game that turned me into the nerd that I am.
Those graphics were terrifying.
They are
1982, I went over to my neighbor's place, I saw him playing laser tennis, and I was like, I'm never going outside ever again. What do you got?
Sporting the Friday the 13th shirt that I
Nice.
picked up at Universal Studios. One of my favorite franchises.
Well, and I've got a Doctor Who shirt. It's a Weeping Angel with the Face of Silence, so you're going to forget not to blink.
Mm-hmm, very wise.
Spooky.
And,
Soundgarden. They
ah!
pummel you with guitars. It's horrible.
They do, that's some scary stuff.
Horribly awesome.
Now, today on the show, we're doing something different here for Halloween because there's not actually, surprisingly, not a lot of horror movies were released this fall, but one of the big ones coming out is a remake of Carrie. You know, this is a huge one. Stephen King's one of his first novels. This one I'm kind of excited about as a remake because we have Chloe Moretz, who's the new incarnation of Carrie. You know, she's got a lot of bank these days from Kick-Ass 2. Yeah. And Julianne Moore, solid actress playing the mother. This is my opportunity to do my Piper Laurie impression. They're all gonna laugh at you.
Your dirty pillows.
Your dirty pillows. I hope they bring back dirty pillows. But the thing is, I think we've all seen the trailer for this new one. They're doing the same thing as the Brian De Palma. Like, they got all the things. They got the bucket of blood and the telekinesis and all that stuff. So I don't know if they're really rewriting the movie on this one. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not really I'm a big fan of the original Brian De Palma's, but I've never read the book, so I don't know how faithful that one was. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this one's going to do anything different that was in the book that didn't come out in the last one. But I mean, I think it's going to be great. Like, the effects are going to be much more modernized, obviously, and but my one thing about it is just I felt the trailer just showed too much. Like, what about the people that haven't seen the original Carrie, you know? Like, they don't know about the cow's blood and stuff, and it just seems like, really? You're going to show that?
And this is like the second remake, isn't it? Didn't they did another Carrie
No, they
remake.
did a sequel. They did Carrie
No, I feel like
to the
they did
Rage.
like a made-for-TV movie, Carrie. It was like on NBC or something, like when I was in high school. So it's been done before, but I mean, with Julianne Moore and Chloe, I mean, it could be better.
I think she's a great actress, like really coming up in her career, and I think she's perfect. She definitely seems a bit more in tune. Like, she has the look of a high school student more so than what's her name, Sissy Spacek, a little bit. Like,
I don't know. We had super solid actors in the first one. There's super solid actors in this one. I think it'll be a pretty easy go.
Julianne Moore, I think, is going to be amazing. Like, she's always been a great actress in all the roles she's done. So playing the crazy, religious zealot mother, I think it's going to be great.
So looking at that as one of the big horror releases for this fall, that's the perfect segue into what we're really talking about today. The My Parents' Basement Top 10 Best Horror Remakes!
Name the remake of the groundbreaking horror movie in which catch them, villain.
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
There's been a lot of
Tons.
horror remakes, and it's been super popular to do these things. So we'll start out with our number 10, The Crazies. Came out in 2010. It was a remake of George Romero film from the 1973. What did you think of The Crazies when it came out?
I like The Crazies because it's like the zombie film that isn't about zombies, you know?
You mean sort of like World War Z?
Sort of like World War Z. But, I mean, it's just about tons of people going insane and just losing their marbles and being homicidal. And it was pretty spooky, I guess.
I thought it was pretty spooky. It's definitely like not up there, but I mean, there's really good style to it, and I thought Timothy Olyphant was pretty good as
He's
the
hard
sheriff.
not to like.
You know, I liked how it just sort of like jumped right into the story. Like you watched the first 2 minutes, and the guy's walking across the baseball field, like ready to shoot the baseball player.
That was a great way to start it out.
That
And I
was
think a lot of people aren't familiar of the original one, anyways, to begin with. I mean, George Romero, 1973. It's pretty far back there.
It's even hard to find. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really hard to find.
So that's why this one is pretty much at our number 10 there. Still well worth checking out. Now, number 9. You might have a few things to say about this, Dave. We have Friday the 13th from 2009. The original, a piece of cult history. Actually, it was one of the first horror movies I saw. Lousy parents, all right? I was 9. It was one of the only VHS tapes we had. But man, it was like I'm totally with you on this, Dave. Like the Friday 13th series was formative in my younger years of watching horror movies. But what did you guys think of the remake?
It was all right. I'm not a big fan of Friday the 13th. I have to be honest. Like Friday the 13th is definitely not one of my favorite franchises. It doesn't scare me.
Not even having Jared Padalecki in it?
I wasn't that into him. I've always been a Dean fan. So.
Oh. It's pretty good. I actually borrowed the Blu-ray from Dave a little while ago and watched it finally, and I had fun with it. So.
I mean, I love this series. It gets so campy later on in the series once he goes to New York and stuff. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
But
he boxes on the roof of a skyscraper.
it's ridiculous. But the original, like the first 2 are just great. The third one, the 3D one, you just forget about that one. But this one's really awesome because, I mean, you watch the original, it didn't even have Jason in it. It's all about his mother. And Jason doesn't come into the second one.
Yeah.
So this one did a really good job. And it actually took a bit from part 3, because that's in the third one, the original, that's where he gets
the hockey mask.
The hockey mask. So they kind of combined the first 3 into one movie, and it's just great. I don't know, like, it really plays up the fun of horror movies where, like, people are trying to be so serious and gory and just, like, real shock value. And this one just brought it back to, you know, fun, creative kills and just... You know, you want to be on this ride with people, and it's not that gory. It's all just about the fun of what 80s horror movies were, I think.
Was this big enough, do you think? Are they going to make any more of these?
I don't know. I was kind of hoping, like, they did end it much like the first one with, you know, Jason coming out of the water. But
most of the Friday the 13th ended with that.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good, but I haven't really heard much about it.
It's been a while.
I don't think they'll continue it. Like they would have made a sequel by now, and they
probably
just
remake it again.
Yeah,
yeah. Eventually, everything gets rebooted once again.
I guess so. I mean, like his look and everything, the way he moved, he was much more menacing in the remake than he was in part 2 when he's wearing the bag over his head. Like, I can see you through the window.
But it kind of leads in actually into our number 8, which is a remake of another cult classic, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This one redone in 2003. Tobe Hooper's original. It's a cult staple for sure. It can be tough to watch for a new viewer because it's rough, a little rough around the edges, but it did kind of set the standard for a lot of horror movies. But the remake, it wasn't shy on the gore. It was pretty intense.
Yeah, I definitely think I was like at the edge of my seat the whole movie, just like. So it was good for that part.
Yeah,
Then-
pretty crazy for Marcus Nispel to like remake 2 huge horror franchises, right? Like Friday the 13th, and then or actually he did Texas Chainsaw first and then Friday the 13th. But I mean, the guy's got style, man. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake is great. I find it's way easier to watch than the original, which is just like you feel like you're being dragged through this hell that the girl's going through, and it really has a realistic feel to it that really just gets under your skin. It's not, I don't know, I find it uncomfortable to watch that first one, but this one, I have no problems with it.
All right, now this one, the next one we have at our number 7, we're probably going to have a few words on this one. The remake, I did like it, The Ring. Out in 2002, yes. Naomi Watts did a great job, a remake of the Japanese film Ringu. I'm a huge fan of the Ringu series. I absolutely love it. I don't think this was quite as good as it, though.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Why?
Well, one, if you watch the two of them, a lot of the signature shots from the remake were lifted directly from the Japanese one. Okay. Directly, shot for shot. And 2, you will look at the American version of the Curse video. American remakes, when they do movies like this, like horror movies of Japanese, they have this overwhelming need to explain absolutely everything. It drives me insane. So the American Curse video, it's like all these like weird images and they explain them all. Yeah. The Japanese Curse video still scares the crap out of me today. You have no idea it is creep-tastic.
It definitely was scarier than the remake, the Japanese one.
Huh?
It was just, without all the special effects and everything, it was just creepier and
I mean, I don't know, like, what happens to you after the 7 days phone call and stuff like that? I mean, in the Ringu, it was kind of just like, cross-eyed girl. Yeah. Whereas in the other one, they turned to these malformed, like decayed corpses and stuff. It was just much more terrifying, I found.
Well, that's fair. The makeup in the remake was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
I only saw the remake, but I liked it. I mean, that video still kind of weirded me out.
Yeah. Like I'm not. Don't get me wrong. It is well worth watching. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
I had heart palpitations when I saw this in the movie theater. I mean, this was a long time ago. It was over 10 years ago, so.
I was definitely on the 7th day, like sitting there, like waiting for something to happen. Just like totally freaked out for a good month after I saw that movie.
Actually, the ending was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was some scares in it for sure. I'm just saying, I'm more onto the original on this one. Now I might be more onto the original, onto our number 6 here. Number 6, we have the remake of Dawn of the Dead from 2004. So here we had the combo that we've seen recently. Zack Snyder, his first feature film written by James Gunn, who's done a lot of great stuff. I don't know if anybody's seen Slither.
Love Slither.
Oh, that's great.
Awesome horror movie there. This one was interesting because they bring out Sarah Polley, who is,
Canadian treasure.
Big Canadian treasure. Huge, like really indie film, like really great actress who's in this kind of a new sort of film. Like they push the same sort of consumerism thing. They go to the mall and that. My one problem with this, fast zombies. Don't like them.
I mean, it is one of the first, other than 28 Days Later, it kind of was the first movie to do the fast zombie thing, or at least maybe popularized it, but I mean, I was okay with it. I think it suited Zack Snyder's like crazy style of fast camera motion and really intense action. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love like Walking Dead, slow-moving zombies, but I felt for the style and tone of the movie, it really worked. And it was a fresh reimagining of the original. The original is pretty slow. It's really good, but man, the pacing can just be like,
It can be, but I just love slow zombies way better. I think it's just more horrific to have this unstoppable, slow moving, like, ooh, here they come, and they're just unstoppable, rather than the, that's just not as scary to me, because that's a cheap scare to me.
True.
Kind of thing.
How awesome was the zombie baby though?
Yeah,
that was my
Zombie
favorite
baby
part
was
of the
pretty
movie.
cool. Zombie baby was pretty cool.
Because when I first saw it, I was like, no, that's really? Oh, it's a zombie baby. And he loved it. He loved that baby.
All right, so for number 6, undead children, we give that 2 severed hands up. That's for sure. Up next, we are covering the top 5. Welcome back to this special Halloween episode of My Parents' Basement. All right, that's enough of that. We're down to our top 5 horror remakes here. We got a lot to go through because these are goodies. These are all goodies. These are going to be probably contentious between which is better, the original or the remake, because I kind of like them all.
I know, right?
But let's start with number 5. I love both of them. Fright Night, which came out in 2011. It was a hell of a good time. I loved it just as much as the original. I'm a huge fan of the original. I've watched that one so much. Roddy McDowall was just fantastic in this one. But the new one was quite good.
Oh, I loved Colin Farrell in this movie.
Yeah.
Because you don't hate him just because he's a vampire, but he's also kind of a dirtbag. You know, he's kind of a creep. And I thought he looked like he was having fun doing it. And then Anton Yelchin was great as the lead.
He was, yeah. He just plays the paranoia of that no one believes that his neighbor's, a vampire, and he's just like going out of his mind all the time. It just gets worse and worse and worse. It's so much fun. Like the writing in this is like they could have easily tried to make it really serious and stuff, but they really kept it fun, which I just love.
I hate to admit I haven't seen either.
What?
I know. I'm
This
sorry.
is a perfect cautionary tale. What do you do if a vampire moves in next door?
You
Starts hitting on your
befriend
mom.
him.
Yeah.
You befriend him. You become a vampire too, and you guys just have cool parties all night.
It doesn't work out that way.
Plus,
I'll tell you.
Christopher Mintz-Plasse, a lot of people know him as McLovin.
Yeah.
He's hilarious in this. He really plays up Evil Ed.
Oh, when he comes back, comes back.
Oh,
as the
Evil Ed was
vampire.
great in the original as well. Like I think Fright Night was just a hole-in-one for a remake. You can't go wrong, really.
Yeah.
The original's great. The remake's great. I give them both. I just think it's neat that the director Craig Gillespie was best known for Lars and the Real Girl.
I know, right?
And then comes to Fright Night. It's like, sure, why not?
And he handled it with so much style. Like the whole sequence where Anton has to break into the house to free that girl, and he discovers all these secret rooms and stuff. Like, just the way he shoots it, like, you can't help but feel all this tension. Like, oh my God, he's gonna get caught at any moment. So, like, to come from something so low budget and indie to something really high scale, major studio movie, kudos to him.
Yeah, nice job. Our number 4 now, we might have some chit chat about this one. Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake. Romero's original, definitely a horror standard, but they did do some fun stuff with the remake. I love both. I think I'm more of a fan of the original because the ending is quite shocking in that one. But when in the remake, you had 2 awesome genre actors, Tony Todd, who is just fantastic, and Patricia Tallman, who's done a ton of sci-fi stuff. Babylon 5 again. But the zombie effects, you had better zombie effects and some more of this stuff when they were actually able to explore more of, the zombies. They're the last lines Patricia Tallman does. They're them and we're them and they're us kind of thing.
Yeah, it's great. Like I mean, I'm with you all the way on the original, but there's this. I grew up on this one, the remake, the color version. Took me forever to realize it wasn't actually Romero that did it. Like when I was growing up, I always just thought it was. But yeah, the effects are just so much better. There's really cool things they did with like Tony Todd's character. He actually gets turned into a zombie in this one and gets killed. Whereas in the original, he walks out the door, a survivor of the whole ordeal, only to be gunned down by the police. And I like how in the new one, Barbara goes in and she kills the father, who's like the ultimate villain of humanity in sort of allegory.
Yeah, I liked that turn a lot because in the original, Barbara's the waif. They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yeah.
And it's quite the but in this one, she gets freaked out, but then suddenly she's got that fire poker, like whack, 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 turns into like this really kick-ass like zombie killing machine into this whole thing. It was very nice.
I'll admit, I'm like Jenna on the last one. I haven't seen either of these.
Well, put it on your list.
You gotta come to my house. We'll watch the movies.
So I'd say definitely remake, original. I think they're both pretty up there.
Yeah,
Both well worth checking out.
I'm for both.
Now, our number 3, this one, I'm probably going for the remake here because the original was done in 1958. We're talking about The Fly, redone in 1986 by David Cronenberg. Jeff Goldblum puking on some guy's hand and the acid. How is that not one of the best scenes ever in horror?
was so good. The effects in that movie are just awesome. Yeah, Jeff Goldblum just steals it. Like his
totally.
charisma and stuff on camera. Like I grew up with him through Jurassic Park and stuff, and he just has so much fun playing, the decaying metamorphosis of the fly.
Yeah, well, this is a nice version of someone taking something pretty campy, like the original's pretty campy. Help me, with the little head and the giant fly head. Like it's pretty goofy, but this one really turned it on its head into something like really horrific and like freaky. The special effects are pretty dang good in this one.
I still remember the first time I saw it. I was like a little kid, and it was on like late night movie, and I woke up in the middle of the night to it, and it was just like gave me nightmares for a long time. It's so freaky and gooey and gross. Yeah, it's a gooey movie.
It is. It's a
Well, it is a Cronenberg movie. If there's one thing Cronenberg's known for, it's bodily fluids. So.
Well, there you have it, gang. Bodily fluids, right on the fly. Now, our number two, this one we should definitely chat about because it's about a franchise that's near and dear to pretty much all of our hearts, the Evil Dead series, which is remade just this year. The Evil Dead trilogy with Bruce Campbell. I think that's formative in any nerd's life, really. What did you guys think of the remake?
I loved it.
Me too.
I loved it so much. It was just amazing, and it kept with the spirit of everything, and it kind of turned everything on its head at the same time. And I just thought it was awesome. It could have probably been a tiny bit gorier.
What?
Wait a minute.
And I'm a gore
It
hound.
rained blood at one point.
It was like people were calling it torture porn.
Yeah.
But the best part about the original was like when they like melted. Like the effects were amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But it could have been a little gorier. It's not much, but a little bit. I
def-
love gore. I'm sorry.
I definitely wouldn't go so far as to say like torture porn or any of that stuff. To me, it's just good old fashioned special effects makeup. Like torture porn is like Saw, that whole department.
Hostile. Yeah.
We'll just put that aside.
Yeah.
This movie was great. Like Fede Alvarez just sort of knocked it out of the park. He used it as more of a reboot than a remake per se. Like he really pays respect to where Evil Dead came from and knows the fans behind this will cry wolf if you stray too much from it. And I mean, you got Bruce Campbell coming on as a producer, so everybody got their sort of like blessing. Go ahead, go forth. And they've announced a sequel, so I'm saying bring it on.
And like a real testament to how scary this is how much you jumped in the theater. I saw her there,
Definitely screamed.
and she screamed a lot. It was ridiculous.
And on the walk home, like the wind is going through the trees. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, so we went to the Midnighter, and it was just so creepy. And I walked home like faster than I've ever walked before in my life, and I was just convinced that like any second, like I was going to be possessed. Something terrible was going to happen, and it's just like it stuck with me too. Like I had a hard time sleeping.
Well, don't read from the book. All right.
No, that's the only thing that
read from the
saves
book.
me from the series.
Unless you're a university professor looking for tenure, then it's okay to read it.
Yeah.
That's our number two. Let's get to the number one here on our top 10 list of horror movie remakes. This is probably my favorite movie of all time.
Wow.
The Thing, 1982. John Carpenter, it's a classic. The original was 1951, The Thing from Another World. Pretty campy and kind of a Frankenstein-y, kind of a monster
it's all about
thing.
an allegory for communism and stuff. Like,
Yeah, a little heavy-handed.
Yeah.
But this remake, I mean, we're talking about John Carpenter right in his heyday. Right, he was making some of the best horror movies ever right in there. And this one, the tension build-up is fantastic in it. It's one of the best tension build-ups I've ever seen.
everything about this movie I love. Like it is my favorite movie of all time, hands down. like Kurt Russell, the way it's shot, Dean Koondi's cinematography is fantastic. Morricone's score is just great. The isolation and tension and the growing paranoia of like who got infected and when, and you can rewatch it, and there's still times where it's like, he could have got infected right there, but you never really know.
You never know. That whole scene where they tie them to the chair and they're burning the blood kind of thing.
Man.
It's freaky. And that's the other thing about this. 1982, some of the best special effects, that I've ever seen that you don't see again. Like the stomach teeth and the spider head was man, so good, so good, and it makes you. This is a remake that you watch and you go, it still stands the test of time, and it makes you go, why are people going CG?
Yeah.
Well, and then the sequel that they also called The Thing, where it was very CG heavy, very modern special effects heavy, didn't look as good.
No.
I mean, it was a neat story. I liked it, but the effects were nowhere near as good as the practical effects from Carpenter's.
It's just mind-blowing, the effects that Rob Bottin brought to John Carpenter's version. I mean, he went so far as to create like all these different new things for like stretching skin and stuff, to the point where he created like toxic like glue and stuff, to the point where like actors started passing out on set and stuff. Like, you know, when you're with CG, there doesn't seem to be that level of creativity, you know? Like, let's just do it in post.
Because you got to imagine you're an actor and I'm staring at nothing, I'm acting at nothing, whereas there is a crawling spider head right there. You know, it's like.
Spider head.
Well, if there's one thing, you know, horror is known for, it's special effects makeup. And it's like, with all this new stuff, everything's CG, and it's like, not only does it look fake, it's not scary, and they did it better in the 80s. So it's like,
really did,
what? Step up your game.
Well, that was
guys.
the great thing.
Like,
Sorry to go take it back to Evil Dead, but Evil Dead didn't use very much CG, and you could tell. And
Yes.
it just took it back to a good level. And we really need
Absolutely.
to get back to that in horror for sure.
the crowbar to the hand, Evil Dead. Just like, oh my god.
And Wilford Brimley was kind of creepy to begin with.
He is kind of diabetes.
I love that part. He's touching the pen to his mouth. I'm like, that's when he gets infected. That's when he gets infected.
Yeah, it is great, and it was nice to see. Kurt Russell being, you know, after the campiness of Escape from New York, being able to really pull this together, pull it together. Made me want a flamethrower real bad.
I know, right? Like, that could just take care of anything.
I know, just in case, you never know. But that was definitely our number one on our list here of top 10 horror remakes. There's a lot of honorable mentions, actually, we couldn't get to because there's been so many. Like, we wrote a whole bunch down, like Piranha 3D. That was a fun one.
It was
actually.
really
It was super fun.
It was pretty fun.
The remake of Let Me In, which I didn't like
Chloe
so much
Grace
as the
Moretz
original.
again.
It was good, but the original trumps it.
For sure. They didn't need to remake that movie.
We had The Hills Have Eyes, got a little remake.
Yeah,
It is good, but again, Wes Craven's original I thought was better.
They're both
Amityville Horror was remade as well. Now, the thing about Amityville Horror, I don't think it had as much weight as the original, because the original was happening around the time the Amity Horror actually was happening, like when the people left the house. So there was a little more weight to it, but we also had some really bad ones. Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Whoosh.
It had so much potential.
They
and
ruined it. Just ruined
like Jackie
it.
Earle Haley, perfect for
He
a new
was-
Krueger.
He
He
was
was really good in it.
He was the
but,
best part of
like,
the movie.
I blame the director and the writers. They just like soured it. Watered it down. Like,
Well, how do you make Freddy Krueger not terrifying? Like, how do you even manage that?
I don't know. Like,
It's like a skill on itself.
you watch the original and it still holds up. Like
Yeah.
the scene where Johnny Depp gets sucked into the bed is like one of the best scenes in horror history. Like,
Yeah,
Speaking
absolutely.
of Craven, I keep holding up for People Under the Stairs remake. I love that movie.
I like that movie too.
And now there's also there was a remake of The Omen, which wasn't so bad. Wicker Man was
Man.
so unwatchable,
That
so
was
bad.
Nicolas Cage. What are you thinking?
And I was really choked that they ruined The Hitcher. The Hitcher was a great suspenseful horror movie. Rutger Hauer was fantastic in it, and they messed that up.
I mean, it's been a while since I've watched the remake of the Hitcher, but I thought it was okay, but definitely doesn't hold up to Rutger Hauer.
See, that's the gamble you make when you make a horror remake. You know, it's like you can be faithful to the kind of the original or go your own way, but ultimately the proof's in the pudding. So you can tell. Just check out our top 10 list. You'll see what's good and what's not. Right?
Absolutely.
We're the authorities on this. Listen to us. Obviously, I'm guaranteed you're probably hollering at your TV right now with your own opinions. Tell you what, head on over to our Facebook page. Send them there. Send us any questions or comments. And that about wraps up our special Halloween episode of Top 10. Yeah, 10 separate fingers here. Top 10 horror remakes. I want to thank our guests once again, Dave Hamlin and Jenna Payton, my co-host Chris Ford here, and Titan Gamings for hosting us once again in their wonderful basement. You stick to your basement, we'll stick to ours. Happy gaming, everybody. We'll see you next time.